da 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 da. My good friends, my good friends, my good friends.
All right, there we go. Yeah, so there's no other tip besides we'll just talk. Have fun.
Love
See
it.
what happens.
Love it.
Do you go by Sam or Samantha?
Honestly, probably 50-50.
I just had Bob Boozon. You know Bob?
I don't know if I do.
How would you get there?
That's okay.
That's fine. We're good. So anyway, it's just funny. So Sam or Samantha, what do you prefer?
Sam has been growing on me.
Oh,
It's funny. My
like
high school
growing up,
friends,
like, yeah,
it's like they called me Mant. It's like the middle of my name. So Samantha. My mom always called me Mantha, so she dropped like the
Mantha?
SA, just my Mantha, yep. And then all my high school and college friends shortened it to just Mant, M-A-N-T. So Sam was never really growing up.
Yeah.
But in here,
That's gotta be a southern
the
thing,
healthcare,
right?
yeah.
Where'd you grow up?
Mant, South Carolina.
Where in South Carolina?
Anderson, upstate. Now I was born in North Carolina. Upstate, yeah.
Okay, I'm not familiar with South Carolina, but like,
upstate meaning
you say
a
upstate,
lot of
what do you
people
mean?
here like Myrtle Beach and Charleston. I'm on the other side of the state, so I'm not like on the coast. I'm on the upstate. But it's a perfect location. I'm 2 hours south of Charlotte, 2 hours north of Atlanta. So I mean, in a pretty good spot. But so yeah, Southern Mant, and then I don't know. The past couple years, Sam's just kind of my dad's Sam. So I was named after him. He's Samuel. I'm Samantha. And so Sam.
You were never going to be Sam.
It's tough because that's my dad's name.
Totally,
you know
that
what I
makes
mean?
sense. You know, that makes total sense. Yeah.
I've embraced it, and the people that want to call me Sam, I'm like, great.
Fine.
But it's that.
Mantha.
Mantha. Yep. And
I
then
like
shortened
that.
to Mant. I know.
Mant.
Mant. M-A-N-T.
So your high school friends see
they
you.
still
They
call
call
me
you
Mant.
Mant.
Yeah. Hey, Mant. Yeah. I know.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, then
I
you'll
love
really know when people know you're
I
like
know.
someone yells Mant at you.
And then I'm like, okay.
What the?
My best friend's here somewhere. Yeah.
What is
That's
happening?
funny. You may be like the only person that I've really told that. So that
There
it
you
may
go,
also
see?
get out, right?
Oh no! Now
Right.
you're gonna get it. Right.
Emails that start with Mant, right?
If someone calls you Mant now, you know.
I know.
They listen to the podcast.
That's right. We'll know the true people that listen to the podcast then.
That's right. True fan. Very fun. That's
Yeah.
cool. That's cool. So you grew up there. What is big family, or what was your?
You know, Dad kind of moved around a little bit in manufacturing. So we got landed in Anderson about when I was 8. Just one brother. So we stayed close. We're about 2 years apart.
Well,
Big sports fan. Played softball all the way into college. Wasn't good enough for D1, so I was D2. But
Oh, you played
I
in
still
college?
loved it. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Just for a year.
What position were you in?
Third base.
third base.
Yeah.
Ooh.
You know, and in softball, you play halfway up the line.
Yeah,
and
you're
back
getting-
in my day, like, you didn't wear the mask. I mean, it was just free, you know, knock your teeth out.
That's
yeah,
chaos.
Yeah.
You ever get hit?
Right on the top of my ear one time. A girl turned on that fastball so quick, I never saw it. And so it barely just nipped my ear. But that never got hit in the I know.
You like turned your head and got hit,
No,
or no?
like, I
literally
was
just
literally
went
here
by your face.
so fast.
Oh my
so
God.
fast. Went right, I never
That
saw it.
would've killed you.
Yes, it had it been a couple inches, like right in the middle of my face. Because, yeah, they didn't do the whole mask back then. I mean, now
And
they
you're
do.
up real close on
Yeah,
softball, right?
you know,
You're not
you
standing
gotta
at
play
third
for the
base.
bunt. You gotta play for the bunt.
Oh my God.
So really, my entire childhood was on a softball field. I mean, my parents, that's what we did every single weekend. I was at some sort of tournament, played basketball in high school, but just kind of as a secondary fun sport. So my dad was a collegiate pitcher, D2 at Wingate in North Carolina. So we just have always shared the love of sports. He retired. They're still in Anderson. So I've really enjoyed getting to play golf with him. He has taken golf back up. So spending time with Dad again, like in a sports, you know, like activity has been really fun. But
So you're an athlete.
you know, but golf doesn't care. I've noticed that.
Golf doesn't.
It doesn't care if you're athletic.
No.
Like, I feel like
It's
any
really
other
unforgiving.
sport,
It's
like
unforgiving.
if you're an athlete, you can go out there and you know, be halfway decent. I took lessons from a guy that I grew up with. So there's a college in Anderson. That's actually where I graduated from, Anderson University.
Oh, yeah.
So he is their like golf director. So I grew up with his sister. 5 minutes in our first lesson, he was like, you just need to understand that, like, you're not going to be good at this immediately, and you're going to have to be okay with that. But I've grinded, and I shot 86 yesterday.
That's
So,
good. Yeah.
I think only the fourth
That'd be a great
time
round for
I've
me, yeah.
broken 90.
Yeah.
So I'm consistently in, like, 90 to 96. But yeah, I shot a little 86 yesterday. I'll take it.
That's fantastic. Yeah.
It's the most addicting sport I've ever played, though. I think because there's always something you didn't do right, so it just keeps you like coming back. You know what I mean?
Well, then you hit a good shot, and you're like, oh, look at this.
God, look at
this
me
is awesome.
go. I know.
I had a hole in one 2 years ago.
I'm really jealous. I've gotten close.
And I'm
one
not
time.
good at golf.
Hey.
And I was with guys one's a pro
Yeah.
at a college. He's a teacher, he's a coach at a college. That's what he does for a living. He's a pro. So I'm with that guy, a guy that shoots like a handicap of like 4 and then a handicap of like 8. And I'm a handicap of like 20 plus,
I
right?
think I'm
The
16
20,
right now.
20, whatever. And I don't play that much, So like I'm with these guys and we're playing for money. And it's literally the last hole and I'm like, guys, I'm tired. Like I don't really care. And it was my turn to play this game, this for money, which is a fun game, but it's like I was really tired.
Yeah.
Because I have to pick the bet, and then everyone goes against you during that hole.
Okay.
And this is wild stuff.
And you did a whole.
And I had to go last because they get to like call it. It's a par 3, so they can call in the air if they think it's something, and they can double up their bet.
I'm gonna have to put that in my
And
pocket. I
all
like
3
that.
of them hit it on the green within like. And I'm like, oh, I get up there and I'm like, God, I just like, I hate you guys.
Yeah.
And basically, I'm all pissed off.
Yeah.
And I remember getting up for the tee, and then my buddy goes, you're going to hit it, you're going to do fine. You'll hit it right on the thing. And I was like, just shut up. Just shut up.
Yeah.
I hit it, and someone goes, God, that looks good. And I mean, hits, rolls right in. And I mean, I was going to stand there, and then they're going crazy.
Oh my God.
And there's people like, it's over water, so there's like people like, it's at the end. So the people at the clubhouse, they're going crazy. I mean, it was wild.
I got close one time. I was maybe a foot. And then, on par 3s, I'll get within 5 feet, but only that one time. I mean, I thought it was going to roll in. So, but I still have a long life ahead of me. I'm going to get a hole in one.
The golf pro guy has never gotten one.
I know.
And my other buddy had just a year prior. But like my other buddy Matt had never done it. So 2 guys never done it. And I'm like, I barely golf. I feel bad about saying it, but it's like, yeah, that happens.
I love it. I love it.
So yeah.
Well, maybe the next time I see you, I'll have a hole in one story as well. We'll
Fantastic.
See. We'll see.
Would love that. Would love that.
And now, a word from our sponsor. This episode of My Good Friends is brought to you today by our good friends at Switch RCM. Nate is back to tell us more about the complicated issue of out-of-state claims. Tell us, Nate.
As a provider, I know that it's very difficult to understand how to register and how to route out-of-state claims based on various rules. So Switch RCM has created technology that automates the process of getting the claim to the right payer, the highest paying payer, and the fastest reimbursement payer without putting any of the burden of that routing back on the provider.
It's amazing technology, and no one in the country is doing this, just like some of their other technologies. So folks, if you need this, which I'm assuming you do, let's reach out directly to Nate at switchrcm.com. He can help you and your team figure this complicated problem out. Thanks, Nate. Appreciate all your work on this.
Now, back to the show.
Yeah, no, that's cool. So you like sports growing up. You got into college. What were you doing? Like, what were you thinking you were doing in college, or what did you end up into doing?
I just took at first I really thought I would do like a sports management. I would have loved to be like a sports broadcaster. I think I missed my calling a little bit, but ended up business management with really like no idea where I was going to go. Ended up doing a minor in healthcare management. And so AnMed, of course, is in Anderson. They're our largest employer. So I was like, hey, if I'm planning on staying here after college, which at the time I wasn't married, but I was engaged to a guy that's in Anderson. So I knew I was going to stay. Honestly, just kind of started as a supervisor when I first got out of college. So I always say like Rev Cycle kind of found me. I don't think I was like out searching for it, but
you were just like talking to the people at the hospital, and you were like, "Hey,
I could do that. Yeah,
I can do something.
Let me add a little healthcare minor on and see if I like it. Yeah, you can hire me for something, right? And then I've never left. So I've been there 11 years. So yeah, when people ask like, how'd you get in? I'm like, I really don't know. I
Well, what were you
graduated on a
supervising at first?
Saturday and started at AnMed on a Monday. True story. And
Where did they put you first? Like, what were you doing?
I was the billing supervisor over our home health division. So started in home health, which is a very unique and
No, it's
niche
super unique.
billing. So
Yeah.
it's almost like I started at one of the harder
It's hard,
specialties
yeah.
to learn.
Right.
And so then a couple years later, when the opportunity came to kind of oversee all of the billing for the hospital, I was like, hey, if I can do home health, I can do hospital, right? And then it's just kind of grown from there.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I also teach as an adjunct at Anderson University. I teach finance. So it's been really cool to kind of start having those sort of conversations that I never really had in college.
Yeah, right.
I'm teaching undergrad, so I usually get them their sophomore year when they're still trying to figure out what they're, really want to do. And so it's fun. I think I have 2 to 3 students that actually are in my rev cycle now. Just from having that relationship at AU, they'll just say, hey, what do you do? And then once we kind of get talking, they're like, I can see myself kind of in that realm. I also get to scout them out too, because if they're not a good student, may not be a
Probably not
good
hire 'em.
employee.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I'm like, okay, they were a student. They did
didn't
their
really
work.
work at this. They didn't really show up, but they want a job. That's weird.
And especially I teach at 8 o'clock because, of course, I have a full-time job that I get
8
to
p.m.
after
At 8
a.m.
That's
So
8 a.m.
I do the 8 a.m. So I teach Tuesday, Thursdays, 8 a.m. to 9. So you're right. I get to see the folks that sleep in on my class, and I'm like, yeah, I don't think we have a place for you here.
yeah,
But it's been
totally.
fun. I've really enjoyed. AU is very girl heavy. I think it's 70-30. So it's been fun to kind of get to mentor, 18 and 19-year-old girls that are, a lot of them are away from home for the first time and don't really know what they want to do. And so it's been fun to show them women can have a fun and cool career too.
So you're teaching a healthcare rev cycle class, or what are you teaching?
No, it's just finance.
Oh, just finance.
Yeah, just business finance. We have a chapter on healthcare, but honestly, every single chapter, I feel like I've kind of brought a healthcare aspect to it. So when we're looking at budgeting or EBITDA or whatever, I'm like, hey, this is how we use it in the hospital setting, and so it allows them to say, oh, I could see myself in a hospital setting. And AU has actually, I think 2 to 3 years ago, added, it used to just be a minor. Now that can be your entire degree, healthcare, administration.
Sure, right.
So I think it'll just continue to grow. They have a great nursing program, so I think all their nurses do their clinicals at AnMed. So I think we are going to continue to kind of build on that AU relationship.
Interesting.
So, yeah.
So how did you get into finance? How did you decide you were going to teach something?
I got my master's at AU. And so I graduated with my MBA in 2016 in December. And I had one of my professors call me probably 3 months later to say, hey, we're growing. We don't have enough professors. What do you think about being an adjunct? Because I had enough finance hours. I'm in the finance division at AnMed, but rev cycle is so different than your good old finance accounting.
You're not doing accounting.
I've never really seen myself on that side. But the finance that I teach is very high level, everyday use. So it's kind of a cool fit. And then I get to put my healthcare spin on it.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I was thinking in my mind, I'm much older than you are, but I was like, I got my MHA at VCU in Richmond.
Oh, awesome. Yeah.
I took 4 semesters of finance and healthcare, but I couldn't teach a class today. I was like, I can't remember.
It took me
I
about
can do
a
some
year.
basics. I can do basic accounting, but I'm not teaching a class. There's no way.
It took me about a year to get my feet under me of, it's one thing to know it in your role. It's another thing to figure out, how do you word this in a way where I can teach this? And I feel like I've been doing it now 6.5 years, and I feel like every semester I continue to tweak how I teach a certain thing. I'm like, hey, that worked great last semester. No, it didn't. So it just takes some getting used to, but now I've got a good amount of time under my belt, so I feel like I can, just do a few tweaks each semester, and yeah, it's been fun.
Yeah, that makes sense. Interesting. Well, that's fun. It's very different.
It is.
A lot of people aren't teaching classes.
No, I never saw myself as an adjunct professor. But
Writing
it is.
papers.
It's fun. I know. Well, the good thing is finance. I don't have to read any papers.
That's
I
true,
give them a
yeah.
couple tests, a couple
Right.
quizzes, and we're good to go. Black and white. I love it.
That's right.
It is. It's fun.
Interesting. Well, that's fun. So now you're running RevCycle for...
Yeah, for AnMed. So director of RevCycle. At first, I was just over our back end, so PFS. So started by directing billing, follow-up, cash services. We had a different director that was over patient access, and went through a couple different patient access directors. And so when the last person left, I guess it was in 2018, we kind of came back to the table and said, does it make sense? Like, front end feeds so much into the back end. Does it make sense to be under the same leader? So in 2018, I brought patient access under the scope. And it's been a game changer. I mean, you know what I mean? I have my front and my back end on all of the denial calls, on all of because they do play such a big part. And so added revenue integrity, I guess, back in 2021.
Yeah.
So basically, I oversee patient access and PFS. You know, I know some organizations have like coding and HIM in their RevCycle. We kind of still have that separate, have great relationships, of course, with those departments. But yeah, we have a great management team, a great leadership team, and blessed to be there, honestly.
Cool.
And now, a word from our sponsor. This episode of My Good Friends is brought to you today by our good friends at Switch RCM. And Nate is here to tell us about physician underpayments. Tell us, Nate.
Physician billing underpayments are a real challenge for providers. Claim volumes are very high. Payments are lower than payments when compared to hospital side payments. We created technology that can handle those large volume of claims, automatically identify underpayments to help our provider clients recover those. And we do that using standard 837, 835 claims and remittance and contracts. That's all we need to help providers unlock that underpayment revenue.
Folks, it's a huge issue. So much volume. We know that Switch is doing just amazing work here. Contact Nate directly at nate@switchrcm.com for more information. Thanks, Nate.
Thank you.
Now, back to the show.
So what are some things that you're working on these days? Like or I would say even more, maybe a better question would be like, what's something that like we're having trouble breaking through on this? Like, this is difficult. Or we've been working through this, but man, this has been hard.
Honestly, I feel like it's just a constant battle, like with our payers. And it's not that that's a new concept. I mean, I've been doing this 11 years. My first day on the job, we were fighting with payers. But I feel like the past couple years, it's just gotten to a new level where, you know what I mean? We're having to fight for every single thing and for months on months. And so we've really made a great relationship with our managed care department. And we're really starting to, you know, when our contracts come due, RevCycle has a seat at the table, and it's, hey, what can we put in there? Whether it's, here's the percent of claims that you can, you know, deny. Here's the percent of claims that you can ask for medical records. I mean, we have some payers out there that are denying, you know, 50% of our claims, and I think they're hoping that these hospitals don't have the resources to go after it. But I would just say it's a constant, and each payer starting to add so many more like nuances. So
true.
You know, when you used to have a follow-up person that could really work in any seat or any payer, these payers are getting so specific that we're really having to come and say, can someone really work Medicare Advantage and commercial? They're getting so specialized that we're really having to make sure that our plan matches up with what we, you know, need it to be. But I would just say a constant fight with the payers. I mean, we used to be able to average, you know, 1 to 2 appeals or reconsiderations. That's moved to 3 to 4. And so, you know what I mean? And yeah, I don't know. So it's just been a constant battle with the payers, I would say.
When you step into those contract negotiations, what is your experience in that? Are you actually in the room?
Yeah, I think last year was my first time being in the room on a negotiation.
What was your observation?
I kind of looked at my feet a couple times, like, you know, because it was my first time, and it's very heated. You know what I mean? Both sides feel like that they, you know, there's a line that's being drawn in the sand, and they're not going to cross it. And when both parties feel that way, but, you know, I think you're really starting to see in our market more and more that healthcare systems are being willing to terminate.
Oh yeah, For
to
sure.
say, you know what, if you want to tell your patients that we couldn't come to an agreement and them have to go with someone else so that they can still get care here. But I think 10 years ago, you didn't see that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And now I'm starting to see a lot more hospitals say, we just got to network with you. But it's been interesting. We have a great managed care director who I think understands and respects the rev cycle enough to allow us a seat at the table to say, hey, what are some of your pain points with this payer? And can we work specific language in to help your rev cycle be more effective? And I think that's been a really good benefit over the past couple years.
Right. Yeah, I always kind of equate it to like they're on the payer side. It's like they have an army of people. It's like showing up to like a fight that it's you two and a couple spreadsheets, and then you got actuaries and like data scientists on the other side, and their whole business is figuring that stuff out. So it's like you're kind of winning. You're coming into a spot where it's like you probably already lost.
It's a great point.
Even if you're a good negotiator,
Yeah.
even if you have some data,
Absolutely.
it's like no, this is their whole business. And I did some work looking at like cost to collect. We look at cost to collect, which I hate that number, but like especially comparing against across hospitals, I don't think that's real. It's a whole other subject.
Yes.
But let's just say it's 4%, right? Let's say you get to a 4% number. That's kind of typical for a health system. Their cost, their admin cost on the as a percent of like total revenue is like 26%. So if you start thinking about like what is it they actually do, we're spending 4%. They're spending 26% to do relatively the same
thing.
stuff.
Yeah.
Like sort of checking out clinical care and all this.
Yeah.
And remember, like there are other stuff that's not related to this. It's just administration of claims. That is such a big difference.
Huge difference.
It's a huge difference. And think about the level of complexity that the health system deals with on just all the things that come into play, right? Like clinical care is messy.
Yes.
On a lot of fronts.
Yeah.
But this is like very, like insurance is like payers are relatively like, they are defined as far as like, they work with employers who's really their primary priority.
Right.
It's not payer. It's not members.
Right.
They say it is, but it's really not.
Mm-hmm.
Ultimately, and I'm not blaming them. I'm just saying, really, their primary is like they have to make sure the employer is buying coverage.
Right.
So those are their like customers, and it's just fascinating how it's like, well, they already are spending way more than we are, and think about what percentage might be related to figuring out those contracts. Of your total spend, it's very, very small.
Right. I would agree with that.
And I don't think we're even armed appropriately.
Right.
So it is fascinating to kind of go into it. Because I just think over the last 20 years, what do you think the biggest lever is? And I would think if someone asked me, like, what do I think the biggest lever that payers were pulling in those negotiations was, they were probably giving you a higher rate, but in reality, what they were doing was passing it to the patient.
Correct.
And so they're not paying anymore, they're paying less.
But their patients, yeah.
But their patients have bigger responsibility because that's what the employers are asking for.
Right.
But what you get is like, oh, I got a higher contract. Until you come back and everyone's high-fiving on the contract you got because you get a 10% increase, but the reality is you don't even know it's coming. Because, as I'm sure you're well aware, it's like and what patients are paying is like 35% or 40% of the total. So it's not.
And that's going more and more. I think we talked earlier about being on a podcast. That's exactly what we talked about. Just the shift in the cost of healthcare really has shifted more and more to the patient. So you're right. We get a great rate. We get that allowable up to only pass it to the patient. And so are you really even getting it back?
No, that's
right?
my whole
yeah,
point.
I know.
And they don't even care.
They don't.
So it's not it's not like the payer's going, well, look, we paid this more and it's this percent. They don't really know. All they know is they get to lower their costs on their side
because they're not paying it.
They're handing a lot of it over
to the patient.
And on these smaller percentages, but it has been interesting to watch as we go forward. How are we going to win at this game? And I don't know if we're so far behind the eight ball.
We are.
Which is why I've been posting a fair amount of stuff around just that I don't think we didn't invent the copay or deductible. We didn't invent that concept. And I say we, like health systems.
Right.
We didn't invent it, but somehow we got responsible to collect it. It was like, how did we end up with the responsibility to collect something that we didn't invent? So I got a relationship with the payer, and I signed a contract with you, but how do I end up collecting something you decided?
And we may or may not even collect it. Yeah.
Right. So
a
that's
great
what
point.
that's what I want to see start like. I would like to see a shift in like everyone focusing on trying to like push back against that, whereas you start doing negotiating contracts. Yeah. Oh, I don't care if you start doing it, but guess what? You're paying us the full amount, and you're collecting from the patient.
I love it.
Because that's actually how I think. Because patients don't care. Ultimately, they don't care until it's your bill, and they really don't care now. I don't know if you saw, but they got rid of like the fact that you can't report it on credit reporting at all.
Right.
It's gone. That's all gone. And not that that was helpful anyways, but it might have been. It was really the last thing.
It was.
But my point is, why don't we make it as part of like, oh, you want to meet your deductible? Then you have to pay that amount. Because people can meet their deductible and their co-insurance amounts by just having the service.
Right. Not
It
actually
doesn't
paid
mean you
for it.
paid it.
Yeah. Just had a service done.
You just had service done.
Yeah.
What does that have to do with anything? It is. I find the whole thing fascinating. Like, how did we? But again, payers, the insurance industry has one of the largest lobbyists in the country.
Yeah.
So they're lobbying hard at like making it so that stuff like this doesn't ever come up.
And I think it's the perfect reason why really the last 3 to 4 years, a lot of our focus has been on kind of the self-pay scope, because so many of our dollars are shifting from insurance. You know, I mean, we still will always have our denials and, you know, going after the payer, but we've really shifted our focus to how do we continue to collect from the patient, because it's becoming more and more part of our, you know, outstanding AR.
Yeah, and I think we're all learning that like used to be like, well, just point of service collections is like that's the thing. It's like, that doesn't seem to really be moving the needle.
No.
So it's like
very
that's
hot
not
topic
moving
4
the
to 5
needle.
years ago, but you're right.
Oh, the last 10 years has been the
Yeah.
thing. We have one of my good friends. Their health system basically stopped. They stopped. They're not collecting up front, and they didn't find a difference in yield. In fact, a lot of their numbers went up.
Really?
And I'm like, it's fascinating. Like, that didn't really have an impact.
Yeah,
like,
we've,
which
I think,
really kind of tells
continued-
us, like, people just literally aren't paying.
Right. No matter if it's at the beginning or the
Or the end.
Yeah.
Or the people that will pay us are going to pay us anyways.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
whether it's
just
on
like
the
this,
front or
right?
the back
It's
end.
like this
Yeah.
fascinating, like, I don't know. I don't know the answer. It's observations, probably.
Yeah.
Oh, very interesting. Well, Samantha, thanks so much for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
It was
it's been
great.
a great time. Yeah.
And I look forward to seeing what you're doing in the
Yeah.
next few years.
Same. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, awesome. All right.
My good friends, my good friends, my good friends. Do a little bit of everything, everything. Cause it takes a bit of everything, everything. My good friends, my good friends, my good friends.